But now I want to talk about Evan Longoria because the D backs finally made a move that we have been probably waiting for, wanting to happen. How long have the D backs linked to a corner infielder or right handed bat on the free agent market? A Justin Turner, a Evan Longoria. And finally, the D backs pulled the trigger after waiting. I don't know why they waited so long. I mean, Justin Turner is already off the board. Most of the major free agents are already off the board. I mean, at this point, you could pretty much pick up anyone you want on the free agent market for like $5 million or less. So maybe that's why they chose to do it now because he's so much cheaper than what he might have been at the beginning of the offseason. But the D backs signing Evan Longoria to a 1 year, $4 million deal with another million potentially in incentives, I thought was the perfect deal for the Arizona Diamondbacks because we've talked a lot about this kind of topic with Sully Baseball on our crossovers because this D-backs team is so young and they're not very experienced. Outside of Madison Bumgarner, go up and down this roster. There's not a lot of players with playoff warts on their resume. There's just not a lot of players with playoff experience overall on their resume. If they do have experience, it's not a lot of experience. But Evan Longoria is someone that's been in a lot of big games, a lot of playoff moments, has had big moments in both the end of the regular season to push his team because I personally remember he was a big reason the D-backs, excuse me, not the D-backs, my other favorite team, the Boston Red Sox had that major collapse. What was it, like 2011, 2012, where they had that 9-game lead to start the month of September and just lost it because Tampa Bay got hot in the month of September. I think Evan Longoria had a home run in the final game of the season to clinch the win for the Rays and push them into the playoffs. I was very upset as a child watching that, but Evan Longoria has always been clutch during what I think from his first season to his sixth season in Major League Baseball. He was considered like a top 25 player by WRC Plus. Now he's not that player any longer because he's in his late 30s. He's like 38 years old. But considering what the D-backs had to pay for him and what the D-backs need from him, this was a perfect match. Evan Longoria already has a house in Arizona. He's already a native of this state. And for what the D-backs need from him, it's not like they're asking for him to turn back the clock to 2009 and look like an all-star again. If Evan Longoria can just do what he did the last 2 seasons with the San Francisco Giants, that's all the D-backs need because Longoria is still a solid contact hitter, still got some pop, can still crush left-handed batters. And the D-backs, we know, desperately needed more right-handed batters in their line. But now you got Evan Longoria to pair with the Josh Rojas at third base. I think that's just perfect. Like I said before, D-backs roster does not have a lot of playoff experience. So Longoria, just another big boy veteran that could come in and hopefully rub off on some of these younger players. I'm hoping with Longoria and Rojas basically platooning third base, maybe Longoria can rub off some of his defensive elk that he used to have when he was in his prime. Listen, Longoria is not the defender he once was. At this point of his career, he's probably average at best, but hopefully he can at least give Rojas some tips and pointers on how to be a better defensive third baseman because by the advanced metrics, Josh Rojas was not a very competent defensive third baseman last year. You could even say he was a below average defensive third baseman last year, but it was also like his first time playing third base. They didn't really do it in the minor league. So I'm hoping Evan Longoria, Josh Rojas, they could just go sit in the dugout, go sit on the bench and just look at tape. Longoria could just pull up the iPad and be like, you see what you did here? You should have taken this angle and this and that. And so I'm hoping Longoria can rub some of that defensive IQ onto a Josh Rojas. But offensively, I mean, those two could just be a match made in heaven because, of course, Rojas is someone that is slightly better against right-handed batters. Evan Longoria is better against left-handed, so they could easily platoon depending on who's on the mound. And the D-backs are also not locked in to a DH. Like it could be Gurriel, Jake McCarthy, it could be Kyle Lewis, it could be Evan Longoria. So Longoria and Rojas are definitely going to have opportunities to play with each other. You're definitely going to see Longoria at the DH spot with the D-backs this season. And the D-backs, if they could get 100 games out of Longoria, because this is someone that has dealt with injuries the last couple years, it's a big reason. Like if he played 130 games the last couple years, Longoria's numbers might have looked pretty nasty, and you might accuse this man of taking steroids because his numbers in like 89 games last year were pretty damn good. And I think over the last 170 games, if you combine his last 2 seasons, he's got a WRC plus of 118. So that's pretty solid for Evan Longoria, who's in his late 30s. So even though like the exit velocity, some of the hard contact stats, some of those are definitely starting to wane a little bit as Evan Longoria gets older, but they're still pretty good. He's still, according to Statcast, has an exit velocity above 90 miles an hour. Still a pretty solid hard hit percentage as well. So Evan Longoria definitely can still provide some pop in the lab, still provide that veteran presence, and just can hopefully rub off that defensive IQ on a Josh Rojas. And then you're going to see Evan Longoria playing third base. You're going to see him playing DH. And then if you just get 100 games from Evan Longoria, that's all you need. You don't need Evan Longoria to play 150 games anymore. If he gives you the same production this season in 100 games like he did last year with the Giants, that's a win. That's worth the $4 million. You don't need him to go out there and be a superstar. You just need him to be a productive player. And at this point of his career, yeah, Evan Longoria is definitely in the decline, but I don't think he's a wash. Anyone who's telling you Evan Longoria isn't good anymore, I don't think has been watching. Longoria does deal with injuries. That's probably one of the biggest issues he has, but the D-backs have good depth with Josh Rojas, of course, that calls him man third. Emmanuel Rivera, like, I don't know what the D-backs are going to do with him because Evan Longoria last season did miss the beginning of the season where I think a hurt finger, and then he had like a oblique strain at the end of the season. He had like a hamstring strain as well. So as he gets older, those injuries are definitely going to start to pile up. But with the Rojas, the Perdomos, the Ahmeds, the Emmanuel Riveras, the Martes, like the D-backs definitely have the depth to weather an Evan Longoria injury when it does come. So I'm not worried from that perspective. And I just love this deal overall. The D-backs now, when you look at their payroll, it's going to be projected at $109 million, which is last year was at 91 million. So D-back spending a little bit more money this offseason, just a little bit, increasing that payroll next year. And the guys like Corbin Carroll hits, if the rookie pitchers in the starting rotation hits, I like this D-backs team as a fringe wildcard contender, as I've been saying all offseason. I think this Evan Longoria move just solidifies the edges of this roster. And again, really crystallizes that the D-backs are the best. Let me take this back. The D-backs are the third best team in the NL West, and the Evan Longoria move might have solidified it. I love the move. What I might have preferred Justin Turner, I don't know, but I think Evan Longoria coming to a state where he already has a home, already familiar with the D-backs, perfect move by Mike Hazen and the D-backs.